Hello, listeners, and welcome to another exciting episode of Standing Post. I'm your host, Cody Starkin, and in this month, we bring you someone from our technical law enforcement staff who has a very important job here in the Secret Service. Specifically, our guest supports the agency by assisting special agents in their investigative and protective duties. A native of the 5 boroughs, he also shares his more than 35 years of combined law enforcement experience in working for both the NYPD and the Secret Service. Now, please welcome to the show, Investigative Protection Officer, Mr. Patrick Rafferty. Mr. Rafferty, welcome to the show. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day, to have a discussion, talk about what you do for the listeners and I. So first, please, do you mind introducing yourself to the listeners?
Sure, no problem. Good afternoon. My name is Patrick Rafferty. I'm an IPO, an Investigative Protection Officer up at the New York Field Office for the U.S. Secret Service.
Where do you call home? Where did you grow up?
Well, actually, I called New York City home, born and raised here. Up in Washington Heights, the upper end of Manhattan there, seasoned in the Bronx. I have a good amount of family friends that still are in all 5 boroughs, surrounding counties, and even the surrounding states. Rafferty roots are strong in New York City.
And what can you tell me about your hometown? Like what makes it, if I was to visit your hometown, what should I see? What should I do?
Well, that's a good question. Professionally speaking, work-related, New York City is, the largest city in the country, and it's one of the largest in the world. Professionally speaking, if you're going to gain experience in our field, you're going to do it in New York City. There's only so much you can learn in the classrooms and textbooks. Where here, obviously the busy pace, the application of experience is going to be your best teacher. Personally. It's the Big Apple. You have a lot of things to do here. I mean, COVID's put a little bit of damper on it over the last year and a half now. But you have your sports teams, and you have your culinary people, and the restaurants, and the theater district, and a lot to do. A melting pot of a lot of different people here, and it's a great place to experience. It's interesting that when I travel, I've done a decent amount of traveling in my life, and when I go to another country, it's interesting to hear them say that they want to get to New York. They want to visit New York. They want to see the celebrity. They want to go through Times Square. They want to pay their respects at the 9/11 Memorial. They want to go to a Yankees game. One guy was like, "I got to get to Yankee Stadium. I got to get to Yankee Stadium." So both professionally and personally, it's a great place to experience.
Awesome. And personally, what do you enjoy doing New York, being native from there?
Well, I'm a big Jets fan. That's number one, big sports fan. And the area is filled with sports teams, from the Yankees to the Jets to, hockey with the Rangers, the Knicks. I enjoy doing, seeing the professional sports. The downtown area, especially by the field office, is always, a good place to visit in terms of the restaurants, and Times Square is always a good place to go by, a theater district. It's also, a good experience to work here. It's a good experience to live here, and I've enjoyed it my whole life.
I think when I met you and wanted to have you on the show, we were talking a little bit about Mets Stadium and just the grandeur of it. I was there to watch Mets versus Orioles. I'm an Orioles fan. Unfortunately, they weren't able to make it. The Mets beat them out.
Camden Yards is a good place too. Been there also. That's a good stadium also. And up here, it's interesting that a lot of people will come into the city to see actually, the visiting team. They'll come to see like maybe the Cowboys play, or if you're from Montreal, come see the Canadians play at the Garden or something to that effect. That's why it makes it a good spot to meet a lot of different people from a lot of different places. It's it's the Big Apple, and people try to get here.
Yeah, and and I was very grateful. Everybody seemed very accommodating. It was very nice. It was a good stadium to visit. But
I'm glad you had a good time.
Absolutely. So I wanted to also talk about it because you have a unique experience, and this happens a lot. Well, a lot of the agents and UD officers that I meet have kind of a prior past with another organization or another law enforcement organization, and that was the same for you too. You worked for the NYPD prior to joining the Secret Service, correct?
Yes, I did. I spent 25 years with what I consider one of the, if not the best, law enforcement department in the country, if not the world. The men and women of the NYPD. I've had my opportunity to meet some amazing people that I worked with, worked for, worked under. Had them work under my supervision. Complete a very, very difficult job. It's 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. I did it for 25 years, and we experienced 9/11. Unfortunately, I rose to the rank of captain and retired in 2010. And before that, I was also in the U.S. Army. I'm a military veteran, and gaining experience that way through either the military or through law enforcement. Unfortunately, sometimes you see some horrible things, but you also experience what's good in people, and that's always good. Whenever you see a vet out there, always say thank you. And every time I see an NYPD guy or gal out there, I'm always giving them a wave and let them know they're appreciated. It's a tough job, and the U.S. Army and the NYPD do their jobs very, very well.
I want to say thank you for your time in the Army, for the NYPD, and now with the Secret Service. I really appreciate the time, dedication, and the sacrifices you've put into your job and profession.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
I've mentioned it before on other episodes, but there's always this kind of, the individuals that I talk to on the show always kind of talk about a law enforcement pass. And we talked about the NYPD, but what drew you to law enforcement? What drew you to just, I guess, law enforcement in general?
Well, that's a really good question. I have to tell you, I was sitting around one day up in Washington Heights where I grew up, and you're impressionable, young man, and you're approaching your teenage years, and there was always in that area in the Heights there was a firehouse like right down the block, and right up the block there was the 3-4 precinct on Wadsworth Avenue, and right across the street there was a recruiting station, a military recruiting station, and the area I lived in the Heights was nestled between Columbia Presbyterian Hospital and Jewish Memorial Hospital, which is actually no longer there. But at the time, you had a lot of people in the area that were doing a lot of services for everybody else. And when you're impressionable, you like want to be a cop, want to be a fireman. But I got to tell you a really quick point there is those cops in the 3-4. I mean, up in the Heights, they were sharp-looking guys and gals too. They had their leather jackets and their caps that they wear down to their brow, and they had these beautiful jackets that they would wear almost like a choker, like a military Marine choker with their collar brass on it and gold buttons. They look sharp, and I have to tell you, I think it was that for me that led me to the law enforcement end of the deal.
Awesome. And why did you choose, I guess, the Secret Service as a third career after the Army, after the NYPD? Why did you join the Secret Service?
Well, I have to tell you that no means was a planned event. I was actually, I think it might have been about 2008 or so, 2009. I was finishing up my career with the NYPD. I was a captain, and where I went to school up at Iona College, I have a bachelor's degree from Iona College up there in New Rochelle, and they would do seminars every year. They would introduce a guest speaker at a seminar, and every year they would do it. And this particular year, I think it was probably 2008, that the Secret Service was speaking up at this seminar up at Iona College, and I actually had something to do that night. I wasn't going to go, and some plans changed. I can't recall exactly what happened. It might have been like somebody got sick or something like that. We couldn't go where we were going. So I said, you know what? Let me go up there to hear the Secret Service at the seminar, and I wound up meeting the deputy director and a couple of agents, and I told them my story, and they were very interested, and they said, well, you could try the Secret Service. I'm too old now. I'm at the time I think 45, 46. And they said, no, there's support operations positions there, and you look like you might fit in. And they said, just scour USA Jobs and see if you can come up with something. And sure as heck, I went down about a year or so into doing it, looking through the USA Jobs, and there it was, an opening in the New York field office for dispatcher, and I put in for it, and I got the job.
Why I wanted you on the show is because I think your position that you're currently serving is kind of almost a hidden gem in a sense where maybe not a lot of people know about it, and I kind of want to bring light to it so people may know about it in the future, both publicly and within the Secret Service, that there's this position out there called an investigative protection officer. And I was hoping maybe you might be able to talk about it, kind of give a general overview of it for the listeners so they kind of understand what the program's all about.
Oh, sure, I'd love to. It started, well, like I said, I got here in 2010 just simply on an application for dispatcher. I didn't know what it entailed, but I knew I would, get my foot in the door somehow with the Secret Service. Like I said before, it was all based on a seminar that I really wasn't even going to go to, but I did go, and I wound up landing on my feet with it. The IPO position was always talked about for years, as far back as I can remember when I started. We had what we called OSTs here, operational support technicians, and we're now currently SOs, special officers. There's PSTs, physical security technicians and physical security specialists. So around 2018, I think the agency wanted to get everybody like under the same umbrella, under the same INV umbrella. That's the way I understand it. That's still my take on it. And the job description for the IPO was very, very similar to other ranks in the agency. It just maybe wanted to expand more on it. They wanted to expand more on your responsibility, expand more on your training, and it turned into a good experience for me. It's sort of like a jack of all trades, the IPO position, covering certain different aspects. The IPO position's responsibilities range, and they run the gauntlet there of responsibilities. They have admin responsibilities, they have investigative responsibilities, protection responsibilities. Your admin responsibilities can be, manning the duty desk. A lot of the field officers have duty desk, which is like a precinct desk that oversees the operations of the day. It's 24 hours, and you have 3 tours there, and you're responsible for a lot of things. And you monitor the radio out there. You can see the agents in the field, who the protectees are that are in your district. It's a good responsibility there. You can also have responsibility where you're actually going to secure the field office. You monitor who's coming in. You can X-ray the packages that have to come into the building, and it all covers under that admin portion of being an IPO. There's also an investigative portion of being an IPO. You can assist the agents with name checks. You can assist them with background checks, license checks, run counterfeit bills for them. Anything that you could do to work with the CRSs here. We have criminal research specialists also that make the agent's job a lot easier. Some of us with a law enforcement background, you have liaison with the NYPD, you have liaison with the district attorney's office, which in part the special agent may need to contact, and you can help them with that end. So there's an admin and there's an investigative part of the job. And then finally, there's a protection part of the job where you may find yourself manning a checkpoint in a national security event. The DNC, the Democratic National Convention, the RNC, the United Nations General Assembly every year, UNGA, anything that the Secret Service is going to be involved in. So you may be manning a checkpoint for protection purposes. You may be securing a car plane for a trip in the United States. You may be actually helping out with the security of Air Force One. You may be standing post somewhere overseas doing the same thing. You may be doing route security for the presidential motorcade. So there's a lot of functions you do in the protection field also. And one of the main things they do, IPOs in the protection field, is actually be the driver for the protectee, which in itself is it's an awesome responsibility. Literally having the welfare of your protectee and the people around you literally in your hands. So most of the IPOs that I've come in contact with, matter of fact, all of them are experienced people that do this job well. So it's sort of like I look at it as a three-prong, you know, jack of all trades type of thing. Maybe getting your admin and responsibilities done, which I discussed, your investigative duties done, which you may be called on to do, and your protection. Your protection is a good part of it, where you might be finding yourself, like I said, standing a checkpoint somewhere, or driving a protectee somewhere in the United States, or even overseas. So it's a really, really, really great position.
Well, I think you kind of explained it through your words, but I'm guessing the reason why the program was created was to help support in those functions, to leave the special agents focused on either the investigation portion of our mission or the protection portion of our mission.
That's correct. It's sort of like a expanded responsibility role in terms of what else we can do to help the mission of the field office, or the mission of the agents, or the agency in general. It's a good way to put it, what you just said, because in actuality, you don't know exactly what phase you're going to help in, but you do help. And I believe the agency is trying to get that focused more on a bigger responsibility. It's been a little bit of a gray area at first with it, but I think also, unfortunately, COVID for the last year has played a part, because there was no United Nations General Assembly last year. Some dignitary trips were canceled, but I think they're on track to doing just that, adding to your responsibility to help support the mission of the agents, the field office, and the agency.
And how, you explained how you went through the process to join the program. Is there options and that's going through USA Jobs. Are there other options within the organization to transfer into the IPO program?
Yes, that's exactly correct. The agency, if you were already an SO, special officer, or a PST or PSS, if you already worked in the agency, they gave you the opportunity to become an IPO right from there. They would grandfather you in. They also gave you the opportunity not to. They also gave you an opportunity to stay where you are. If you wanted to remain an SO, you could remain an SO. If you wanted to advance to the IPO position, you had to complete a course of training that they prescribed. For some of us, how we say this, a little older in years, some of the training was a little tough, but you got through it. And they gave you the advanced training. You completed it, and you were able to become an IPO. But the good thing about that is, I was impressed that the agency gave you the opportunity. If you did not want to do it, you didn't have to do it. So if you wanted to do it, you complete your training and you become an IPO. It was a pretty easy decision for me.
So within the IPO program, does that translate to the other field offices too? Are you, if there was some life occurrence or something that happened in your life that required you to move, does that translate well to other field offices and headquarters in DC?
Well, there is an opportunity to transfer to hardship. I understand that the detail that you're on, or the detail that is coming up, or the detail that they're canceling, may dictate that maneuver. It may dictate, hey, listen, there's an opening here, there's an opening there. If you want to go home to maybe your home state or something to that effect, you have to wait for an opening. But there's transfers that can happen. Like just recently, transfers were available for IPOs to go down to West Palm Beach in the Donald Trump division detail. There was Honolulu, Hawaii, for anybody interested in IPO transfer to the Barack Obama detail. And there were some openings in D.C. So basically, there is a chance for transfer, depending on even attrition, even people leaving the job, people retiring. Depending on what that position opens up, there's definitely a possibility for transfer that you could put in for.
Before we move on, is there anything else that I might have missed or didn't ask about the IPO program that you may want to bring up?
Not really. I think we've covered how it started, why it started, what's available to you to become an IPO, what the responsibilities are. It's still an area that's in progress. It's still maturing in stage, and from what I've understand and from what the IPOs that I've talked to understand, it's a really good position. I'm kind of lucky to have it.
Well, and that's kind of what I want to talk about is some of the experiences that you had to, witness history. Because we were talking, and I don't want to steal your thunder, but when I got to meet you, you had talked about some of the experiences and some of the, things that you were able to do within the program. So I was wondering if maybe you could talk maybe some of your investigation stories if you have some, or if you wanted to talk any of your protection stories if you had them.
Well, we could spend a long time on stories here in terms of what you've seen out there, whether it be in the professional end or a little bit of a comical end type of thing. Being maybe stuck in a car plane at kind of freezing Iowa landing strip overnight, or rushing maybe a first daughter over to a candy bar trip on a sleepover in New York City. There's a couple of things we could mention, but what I would like to mention in the experience is like I said, I'm a guy from the Bronx here, and I got a chance to drive just about I think all our former presidents, all our former vice presidents, the first ladies, the second ladies, heads of state from other countries, um, you know, cabinet members. You got a chance to meet them, and in meeting them, it gives you that sense of the professionalism that you have to perform to make sure that they're safeguarded, they're safe. And in the time that you do that, you run into some stories. Like you might be out on Long Island taking a dignitary out to a place on Long Island, and we were in the Hamptons one time, or with the East End of Long Island, and I forgot exactly who we were driving, but we were out there, and Billy Joel will pass by and wave to you and say, how you doing? And I'm doing okay. Thanks for asking, Billy. I thought maybe he'd mention it at a concert when I was out, but he didn't. That's okay. Then there's you'd be downtown somewhere maybe, and Eli Manning would come by and say hi to you, things of that nature. One time we were in a restaurant. One of the dignitaries was eating, and Matthew McConaughey was there and comes up there, nice glasses. It was actually pretty cool. But the experiences that you have there are generally from doing a very serious job, and when you make sure that you have your protectees squared away, you're good to go. You have a 5 minutes to relax. I think that makes you totally a better operative for the Secret Service, because you can't all be like, here we go, when you need some time to, decompress a little bit. And, that's the story I want to get out there, that, hey, look, you've been through a lot, you're making sure everything is safe, and that's the main part of the job. And in times of doing that, you can also have a little decompression time, and that makes you even more aware of your surroundings and your mission.
What do you feel is the best part of your job?
Well, that's a good question. That's a real good question. I got to tell you, I think the best part of my job, for me anyway, is I get to continue my service, which has become now over the years, it's become like a lifelong thing for me. I get to continue my service for others. That's what I love what I do. I think this is a great position. I'm very lucky to try to keep proving my worth here, to stay in such a great country. Let's just be as candid as I can. I do this for my family. I do this for our future. I do this for my country, and to me, to be able to continue doing it is the best part of my job.
And I have to ask, and you can't use driving a bunch of public affairs professionals around New York for a day as your worst experience. But do you have a worst part?
We ate good. We ate good, right?
Absolutely.
We
No,
good.
you.
Okay.
But I will ask: is there any challenges in your job? Things that that you might be able to talk about?
Well, I would have to say, over a period of time, I don't know if I would use the word worst, but there are some challenges, and in any profession, any job function, any employment opportunity, you're going to have flaws. People are going to have flaws in every walk of life. Here, it's not a 9 to 5 job. It's not a Monday to Friday, weekends off, holidays off thing. There's activations, and there's details, and there's notifications, and there's this and that may, take time away from family and friends and things that you may want to do elsewise. And that's a little bit of a sacrifice there. I have 2 beautiful daughters, Alexis and Alyssa, and I remember, holding them in each arm when they were like 3 and 1 years old, and hi daddy and all that other good stuff. And in the blink of an eye, they're in their 20s, living their own life. And so there's a little bit of sacrifice with family time and friends time and things that you want to try to balance, because like I said before, it's not a 9 to 5 job. And, I tried my best to do that. I'm sure my girls are proud of me, and I'm more proud of them for putting up with me. But in perspective with that, the sacrifice of time away or not a Monday to Friday job, in perspective with that, they're sacrifices of Gold Star families or law enforcement families or any family that was involved in any type of service that have lost loved ones, 9/11 families, some who suffer with disease right up until this day from the horrible events of that day. Those sacrifices, those are, mine totally pale in comparison to those sacrifices. But to answer your question, it does take time away from family, and you have to learn how to balance that. And I've been trying my best at it, just about my adult life. And but in perspective, like I said, the real people who've sacrificed so much are friends and family that unfortunately, in this line of work, in either the military, law enforcement, or federal service, never made it home.
And how long or how many years have you been in law enforcement?
Well, I 25 years in the NYPD, ran concurrently with a few years in the Army, and now it's my 12th year here. So I'm closing roughly on about 40 years.
Okay, so I guess with more than 35 years of experience, I think we can classify you as an old salt, with respect.
Yes, you can, actually. That's actually a nice way to put it.
Well, well, I would like, if you can, maybe if you have any wisdom, any guidance, for maybe people that are thinking about joining law enforcement or maybe the IPO program. Do you have any words to them, or just maybe people in general?
As far as law enforcement, well, IPO. Let me just start with that. That's a good place to start, because it's basically been one of my favorite things to do. We have IPOs here, or IPOs that I've met, that bring a good amount of experience to the table. Some are ex-law enforcement, some are ex-military, some are both. Some bring mechanic experience, alarm experience, bypass alarm experience. They bring fire experience. They have a lot to offer. And if I was somebody out there when this program, really gets going, type of thing, and you see that position on USA Jobs, if it's out there, and you have something to bring to the table, you can actually, plug your experience in here, because you're handling so many other responsibilities that it might be a perfect fit. For anybody in law enforcement in general, and specifically for our agency, the Secret Service, keep your head on your shoulders. Remember that you may be called into service at a moment's notice, depending on your protectee or the detail you're on, where the results could actually go down in history. So, we want that all to be on the good side. I mean, look at this past year of what's happened
in some areas of the country. So you have to be safe. You have to keep your head on your shoulders. Be responsible for your actions. The thing I've noticed about the Secret Service is everybody that I have met in the agency, and it's too numerous right now, to mention everybody, but if they know me, they know who they are. Between the counter assault officers and the hazmat people and headquarters and the RTC, the trainers, the instructors, everybody I've met is up to that task. They do a silently great job. I'm very impressed. I'm very proud of them. They don't seem to need any accolades or headlines, medals. They silently do a great job, and they do their part for a bigger picture that has to obtain and keep up a zero fail rate. So it's like I said, it's an awesome responsibility that they do very well, and they should be proud of that. I'm proud of them. I'm proud to be part of it. So I hope I've enlightened everybody and a little bit of comments about them, because they really do a good job.
Well, Mr. Patrick Rafferty, thank you very much for being on the show. I wanted to leave you with the final word or comment for the listeners, if you want to impart anything to them as we wrap up the show today.
Well, sure. I'd just like to say thank you for the time. I appreciate the opportunity. I hope I enlightened someone on our IPO position. And if anybody has any questions in the agency, they can always feel free to call me and discuss. And if we can't figure out the answer, we'll find somebody to figure out the answer together. So thank you very much. I appreciate the time.
For more information about the Secret Service or how to join, please go to www.secretservice.gov. And until next time, listeners, stay vigilant.